Be sure to subscribe and like our channel. Welcome, this is Deeper Down the Rabbit Hole and Queen City Curio Apothecary Videocast. And once again, Facebook told us nope, because we took too long. We're not that late. It should be okay.
Not that late. They said like 10 minutes. It's not even 3.
Yeah, right? You know, like whatever, right? Facebook. Mark Zuckerberg loves you. He loves you. He's smiling on you right now, and he loves you. I'm here with Zach. I give no fucks about your culture whatsoever, and I'm wearing a Tommy Hilfiger shirt, Louis. And today, what up, right? It's like Zach, you have taken the place of Jason MF Caldwell. Now you're just like,
I know,
Zach MF Caldwell. And today, right, we have Sara on the Big Book of Magical Incenses. This is the book. Eventually, we'll have it and clean up the notes, so you'll be able to see a link to this, purchase this directly. If you're in Toronto, this book is already part of our library, our public library. You can come check it out for free. Just come here and you can look at it. If you're a sponsor, you can check it out. So if you're a sponsor for the show, which the links will be in, you can check this out. And if you're also a sponsor, tomorrow, Sunday night, we will be starting continuing our chakra series. So we're going to be doing chakra workshops for the sponsors of Deeper Down the Rabbit Hole. And not this week, but in 2 weeks, we'll probably be starting the hands-on workshops where you can come drop in and ask us any questions to a point, because we actually be working on stuff, like actual stuff for the store, like building, as we were talking before the show, sinkfuls of batters of oils. That's not so much me. I'm the powder guy and the mojo bag.
That you
My
are.
wife's the oil person. My wife's the what do you call? And maybe we'll take a page out of Sarah's book and build some incense. So it's Zach. Zach is gonna probably helping us make candles. That'll be the first thing we'll be doing. So, so not yet, but soon you'll be able to drop in and just come in and buy some materials and just get to work. Obviously, we still are not COVID deniers like so many other people. So we still require we still require social distancing and masks. But really, if you're working on freaking candles, you should be wearing a mask anyway.
Yeah, you should.
I mean, it's like, even though all our candles that we're making are going to be beeswax, still it's oil in the air, come on. Really?
Don't you want that candle wax in your lungs, man? It helps protect you, right? He's like, I'm out on that one.
I'm already out on that one.
Well, here, I'm just going to say, you were mentioning libraries. For people in the U.S., if your public library subscribes to the Hoopla service, the Big Book of Magical Incenses is available for free to almost anybody with a U.S. library card, at least right now. I don't know if they keep books there forever. I think they cycle through.
There you go. But if you're in Toronto, 607 Gerrard Street, come to Big Trouble in Little China, a.k.a. East Chinatown, a cult store. That's us, Queen City. Awesome. So we're going to talk about this. This is your second book, too.
It is.
You have also got a book on hymns.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations.
Thank you. The second edition of that is coming out in September.
Awesome.
Excellent. You conquered the hoop I could never conquer yet so far. You're getting the second one done. First one was easy.
Third one's almost finished, actually.
Let's see.
I didn't mean that to show up. I used to teach, so I'm used to just producing written material.
Oh, my day job is now a teacher, so.
Oh, there you go. Oh, well, I couldn't write a book while I was day job teaching. My day job is being a witch nun, so it leaves some time open for writing witch nun books.
There you go. Which is interesting because, one of the things as an aside, there's when you do high levels of mental things, there's actually mental energy, which people don't realize. There's only so much mental energy, and as your job is more mentally, not mentally demanding, like mentally acumen. I don't know how to say it. It's not
No,
quite
I
demanding.
totally
It's the
understand. So
wrong word.
before I taught high school, I was a theoretical mathematician, and like I
Right.
definitely know what it feels to just like wring every ounce of like brain out of it, and I just
Yeah.
was done. I had like
I
used
teach-
up all my smart for the day, and I just needed to be stupid after that.
See, right now, that's me teaching data science right now. It's
Mhm.
not too far from theoretical mathematician.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I could
And
not
I
have written
basically
books
just-
while I did that. Mhm.
It just didn't happen. It hasn't happened so far. So
Well, I love your first book.
there we go.
So I look forward to another one.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The next one is going to be on the fire magic
Oh, that'll be exciting.
and the techniques that Zach is getting personal coaching on right now.
Yay.
Yep, they are
Which-
badass techniques.
Yeah.
Exciting.
So, but today we're going to talk about the book of Magical Incense. So,
Cool.
what convinced you to write a book on incense?
Well, I'd been making and selling incense for a while, and as I'm sure you guys know, especially when you're selling on the internet, incense is like a little tricky to sell on the internet because I don't have like smell-o-vision, and also it's kind of hard to photograph in a way that makes it look interesting. It's just kind of like a bowl full of stuff, right? So I started like explaining what was in it. Like I would give these detailed instructions, and that sort of slowly evolved into like I already sort of had all these recipes written, and so people started asking for a book, and that's really sort of how it evolved. But the other thing I liked is, I thought a lot about what I like in witchy books, right? And one thing I like is when they're just sort of like a sampler of a lot of different stuff. That's something I like about your book as well, right? That like even if one particular thing maybe didn't appeal to me, like on the next page, there's just something new to inspire me. And so that's another reason I liked incenses, because it just kind of gave me like a structure to talk about all different kinds of magic, right? So even though it is technically about incense, like in practice, it's really just about using plant materia in magic. So I'm talking about incense, but it could be very easily adapted to like baths or oils or really anything like that.
Mhm.
Right. One of the things is that you had kind of, well, first, what was your favorite part of this book? Like, what was your favorite spell that you put in there, or your just
God.
the single thing? If someone had to turn to a random page, this is not random page, a page the author suggests, what should be it? What would you say? Go now.
I
I
would
know that's
say,
the hard question, right?
okay, so what I would actually tell people is to like first open up their just kitchen spice cabinet and see what's in there, and then look up those plants. So the book is basically like half I talk about individual ingredients, right? And I talk like a little bit about them, but then I talk about, sort of their properties and what features of the plant like tell me that it has those properties. Because I know when I was like coming up in magic, I would read these recipes and I'd be like, why does this have cinnamon in it? Like I would read a recipe and I didn't understand. And there was no explanation of like why those ingredients were in that recipe. So if I wanted to substitute, I couldn't really do that because I didn't like understand how they had come up with it. Right. So I really wanted to like give a lot of information about why I chose the individual ingredients. And I sort of did that in two pieces. So in the first half of the book, I talk about the individual ingredients, right? Here are some features of the plant. And those features tell me that like it will have this magical property, right? So I know that almost any plant that you use as like an insecticide, you can also use to keep away other kinds of invisible, like spiritual pests, right? Or like any plant that you can use to induce menstruation will also be like beloved of witch queen goddesses, right? Like there's features of the
Right.
plant that translate into a magical use. So that's what I would tell people to do first, is think about like their favorite just in spice or ingredient and read the section on that and that will like help them inspire new uses. But then in the second part, there's spells, recipes, and then most of the recipes have spells or many of the recipes have spells that accompany them. And I would tell people honestly, like I really mean it, like close your eyes and ask the book to like tell you what you should hear, and then open it and see what it does. I know that doesn't exactly answer your
Let's
question,
try it.
but yeah, try it. See what we get.
Charismatic AF.
All right, I like that one.
There you go.
So that's a recipe that I recommend for like maybe like a job interview, or you're gonna like make a presentation, or just something where you want to be like extra shiny. Right? And so that's written as an incense, right? But that one in particular is also really good as an oil, so you can wear it. But you could also just like put a pinch of the loose incense in your pocket.
Yes,
So
the
let's
handy
see.
tricks.
No, I lost it. No, I lost it. But I know there was frankincense, which is like
Yeah, there was frankincense in her book.
in that one,
Charismatic
and it was like
Yeah.
I know it's embarrassing that I don't know all the recipes. I'm going to guess that that would be like frankincense and something like some kind of warm spice, like a cinnamon or a clove. And then probably some roses, which I like for any kind of like, you know, we often talk about like Venus magic as if it's just for like romantic love. But Venus is actually like the power of like all kinds of like interpersonal social like relationship, right? So like Venus will also help you impress somebody at a job interview.
Mhm.
Though you do have to.
I think Venus is a real underrated planet because
I
of this,
think,
because everyone
honestly,
thinks it's.
I sort of feel like all the planets except Jupiter are underrated in our culture. Like I think our culture just has like, it's not that I have any issue
I won't
with
even
Jupiter.
talk about how underrated Saturn is, but
Right?
but
I have a whole like
Saturn,
preachy thing about like I love Saturn personally.
But I mean, first, people don't understand. I think people don't understand Venus either, energies or plants, because our culture is sort of based on this trivial hallmark romanticism, where really, if I would really break down Venus, it's the power of Gabo, of interconnection. It's the only reason people bother to connect whatsoever. So it's not just
like Venus is the great green goddess that unites living things in community. Like the reason her animal is the dove is because like, you know, we think about like messenger pigeons, but that's not new. Like pigeons, which are the same animal as doves. Most languages don't even have different words for dove and pigeon. They're the same animal. Like they've been used as messengers for a really long time, like since prehistory. And so like I think that's why like Venus's animal is the dove. It's because like that's the network that ties humans together in community.
Yeah, and I think without, you know, like everyone thinks it's just between a man and woman, but you know,
I mean that too.
Zach, my heterosexual life mate, or you know, whatever, like at least co-owner, right? I just watched Dogma the other day, so that was the Dogma line. But you know, I think people don't understand that like that's not it. It's not just humans. It's also what compels you to connect to the divine. So it is like the joy of connection altogether, which I just think it gets a bad rap because people just don't understand it. They limit it to romantic love and a man.
It gets a bad rap because it's devalued, like everything associated with women are devalued in our culture. Like our culture reduces Mars to like a violent brute, and our culture reduces Venus to a bimbo, and our culture reduces the moon to like just a whacked out, strung out addict. Like it reduces all of them because we live in a culture with like just an unhealthy Jupiter obsession with like constant unlimited expansion and cough cough patriarchy. Some people would like to tell me that Jupiter is not the god of patriarchy, but that dude's name is Hugh Potter. Like that's the god of patriarchy. Like
what?
Yeah, like
what? Hugh Potter? What?
Yeah.
Fact.
Well, okay. I mean,
like
most Jupiterian. I mean, I understand where people are coming from that they do not believe that, but I think the most accurate Jupiterian representations are Jupiter in the clouds. Like, as in he's looking down.
Right,
but I know that's a controversial topic. There's no judgment there.
I have no hate for Jupiter. I like Jupiter, right? Like that's my dad. Like he's expansive and loving, and like there is such a thing as, you know, when I feel like I started to understand Jupiter, when I became a vice principal. I was suddenly in charge of, like, when you're a teacher, you're like, you do have a kind of authority, but at least in high school teaching, like, those are people you know, like, you're in the room with them, you have a genuine relationship with them. But as a vice principal, like, I was in charge of people who, like, I had to make myself flashcards to even memorize all the kids' names. Like, I didn't really interact with the ones I didn't teach at all, and, like, I wanted
except for the ones whose names you did remember because
Yeah, well.
they were the ones who were in your office all the time.
And this was a really small school, so really, I actually mostly did know most of them. But still, like, I wanted to exercise that power, like, justly and well. And, like, my desire to, like, be a good king, I feel, is when I started to, like, appreciate Jupiter. Like, there's a lot of good things about Jupiter. I just think our culture is out of balance. Like, I think Jupiter needs to be balanced with other forces in a way that our culture doesn't properly do.
I mean, that's an aside. Like, we could talk about how much
Sorry,
our
I don't mean to
culture
turn every single thing
undercurrents,
into, like, a lecture on communism.
how much our culture ignores Saturn, which is the reality of most people's lives, and doesn't come to grips with it at all.
Yeah. Well, if anybody wants to hear my views on that, if you Google Sara Mastros, a preachy note on Saturn, you can read me talk about how Saturn is the god of the only people who ever withstood the Roman Empire. Like Carthage.
Correct.
Like that's why our culture hates Saturn, because Saturn is in opposition to the Roman. Like the sickle of Saturn is the sickle that brings down.
You know
the
who's? Yeah,
sorry, I'm
freaking so, Ukraine is Saturn. Ukraine is Saturn.
Exactly.
It's death everywhere, but you know what? They're still standing. Yeah. That's Saturn.
I agree. You know, my people are from Ukraine too. So
I know.
I mean, Ukraine didn't quite do right by my people, but you know, like,
my family decided to leave right before World War II because
my family was chased out. So, like, with accent, like my family was not well. Long story short, my family did help foment the Russian Revolution. Like Leon Trotsky is my mother's father's mother's uncle. So we're not really welcome. Or I'm sure now it's not even a thing, but like my family did not. Most of my family did not make it out. But that's how we ended up. Yeah. America's been
Saturn.
Saturn. I love Saturn. The god of rest, Shabbatai. The inventor of the weekend.
Correct. So there's like, you in the book. Mm-hmm. I mean, you include.
That's what we're supposed to be talking about. I remember.
I know. That's why I'm real. See, I was just being good radio. I was running it all back.
I'm gonna get a note from my publisher about like less communism, more advertising.
You'll be.
You'll be fine.
Publishing probably won't.
No, I know.
There's never been a time Llewellyn reached out to me and say, "Shut the fuck up, bro." Never.
No, really, honestly, Weiser's they would not do that. Like they don't. I mean, I'm sure there's something I could say they would object to, but like if I'm a Nazi, I mean, they dumped somebody for being a Nazi recently, so good job, Weiser.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're going to
not name that.
We'll not name that.
Yeah. About the book.
I mean, so how did you decide which spirits to include rituals for or not? Did you make a pact ahead of time and say you get in if you get me X?
I mean, honestly, some of them a little bit, but more that those are just sort of the ones. Some of them were like, those are the ones that I work with all the time. And some of them were like, after I kind of wrote the list, I sort of looked over it and there was like a really, like we all have a type, right? And I have a type among the spirits. It's like witch queens. So I did like think to myself like, oh, we better balance this out with. So there's some that I put in, because I had a close personal relationship with them. There's some I put in because I thought like that was a thing people would be interested in. And there's others that I put in because I did want to kind of like showcase a particular ingredient or technique. So some of the recipes are like developed specifically to, like there was an ingredient I felt like I hadn't sort of shown off enough. And so I thought about what kind of recipes I could do that. Or some of them like Ookie Spooky Invocation incense is in there because I wanted to talk about Dark Mirror evocation in an incense book. So like there's things in the book that between you and me, I just wanted to talk about, like the spell, and then I maybe generated an incense to go with the spell because it's a book about incense.
Now, the Ookie Spooky Evocation technique is not ookie or spooky if people watch the show where we've done demon summoning. It's on air. It's
that's what that incense is for, is for demon invocation and other kind and necromantic invocation. I mean, I don't know. I like to give things names. So like charismatic AF or Ookie Spooky. I don't know. I have to name them something, so I feel like I want the names to be fun and descriptive. Ookie Spooky Invocation incense, by the way, is mostly myrrh and wormwood and amanita mushrooms.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Which is not easy to get the mushrooms in all places, though.
You know, I didn't used to have any trouble getting them online, but I will say that my previous supplier was in Ukraine, and I actually haven't tried to buy any in a while. So, like, because my supplier is in Ukraine, I can imagine it might be a little tricky. But also, you know, for personal use, at least where I live, you can find them. Like, if you're out in the woods, and in a loving relationship with Grandmother Mushroom, like, she will provide them for you. Which is different than, like, you know, if you're trying to make incense commercially, you need maybe more than you can forage. But for most people, I would always recommend that, like, whatever you can find in your yard or, like, on your walks in the woods, or, like, I would use that rather than... I am generally not a big fan of, like, special ordering magical supplies on Amazon or whatever. Like, I feel like...
Or if you're so inclined, especially ordering magical supplies from Queen City Curio, we got it.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, I think
We
there's
got
a
the
difference.
stuff.
There's a difference between buying from, like, a reputable supplier who like lovingly handcrafted an incense. I feel like that's different than just like... I guess what I'm saying is the special rareness of an ingredient. I don't think you really get bonus points for an ingredient being special and rare if you got it from...
Actually, this is
my
a
opinion.
great topic to talk about, actually.
Sure.
Like, that's not an aside for an instance book. Because
No, and so I talk about
this is
this a
something
lot
that-
in the book.
Yeah, because this is something that I think I'm always telling Zach, there's fights worth having. This is a
Yeah.
fight worth having. Now, I'm on your side. I'm kind of like, most of the ingredients are super... Now, although we have a whole, like, 300, 400 herbs, we probably, honestly, between me and Zach, for different purposes, probably use about 300 herbs. Like,
Yeah, we do.
Same, but
that's
I'll tell
just-
you what, before I started making incense commercially, I used like 15, and they were the ones I grew.
yeah, I mean, that's it.
And
You know,
and that's what I wanted to do in the book, is like empower people to make those to look at a recipe that calls for ingredients like, say, amanita, that's maybe a little harder to get, right? So what are they
Right.
going to do instead? And in order to make those decisions, you have to like understand why that ingredient is there. So for amanita mushrooms in particular, like, it's going to play a couple of functions. Like, one, it has a genuine chemical influence on the body, right? Which
Yes.
in incense is pretty mild. Like, honestly, even if you put your head directly over amanita incense and huff it, like,
It's
you're
not
gonna
gonna do
feel...
much.
I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm not lie. I'm a little bit of a stoner. So maybe if you're like never touch coffee
No,
or
no,
anything, maybe you'll feel a little
I-
bit, but it's quite mild.
I actually think high-grade frankincense and high-grade
Exactly.
cypress oil will have a greater psychoactive effect than those mushrooms.
I agree.
Like-
So, right. So, and you don't necessarily need to substitute for that effect, but amanita, like any mushroom, also has this sort of like deeply thonic kind of like rhizomatic connection with the whole underground forest feel to it that you want to substitute somehow. And so, like, if I was going to substitute for amanita, I'd probably just use regular like grocery store mushrooms, dry them, because it gives you that same kind of like earthy smell. And then I would think about like other things that would replicate a similar, like, slightly sort of psychically liminal experience, like maybe a wormwood, maybe a frankincense. For me, I don't know necessarily that I would do frankincense for amanita, because frankincense is really...
No, it's a different high.
Yeah, right. It's really like, so I don't know, high vibration. I don't really like that word, but you know what I'm saying. It's really like celestial,
Yeah.
and amanita is really like
No, I
Yeah.
totally get it.
deep down.
You should slip
Yeah.
people some ketamine while they're smelling the incense. They get the same effect.
I mean, I will
I
say,
wouldn't do that. That was a joke. But
if
you
it's
know.
legal where you live, like when I am in places where it is legal, I often use marijuana in incense.
Right. Well, it's legal in Canada, so
Yeah.
that's totally
It's
okay.
legal in Canada. It is.
Yes.
Like, literally, there's like 5 marijuana stores on every block at this point.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's even like, I know when we were getting the incense in the store, it was like, why is there marijuana incense? I'm like, oh yeah, states.
Right.
That's a thing because
Well,
each
I've
state's
always
different on that.
assumed that the function of marijuana incense, like, was that you burn it, and then when your parents are like, "Why does your room smell like weed, Timmy?" You're like, "Oh, look, Mom, it's just this marijuana incense." Like, you just
first,
have the box.
the
That's what I assume.
funny thing
that
about
was for.
this is we actually tried it, and it does not smell like marijuana.
No, not at all. At least the one I also have tried, like, no, I would not smoke anything that smelled like that. At least the kind I had smelled like chemicals.
It was flowery and chemical. Yeah.
It was
I mean,
flowery, yeah.
I'm pretty confident was like an artificial cedar ester and some kind of like artificial floral, maybe lavender. Like, it did not smell even remotely like marijuana, nor did it smell, in my opinion, pleasant. But maybe,
Which
I
is
mean, I just got like some
interesting, 'cause-
weird cheap dollar store bread.
Yeah, it's the ham stuff, probably. But that's interesting because it kind of gets to another point. Like, I think there's a big difference. Now, I personally, some things, like we were saying, like, yes, you can substitute. I totally agree with that. But then I'm also kind of a purist that I'm not a fan of what you were just describing. Like, I don't like them. I don't find that kind of incense works as well.
Oh, like the synthetic one?
The
Yeah.
the
Yeah, I don't care
synthetic,
for them.
very cheap one. And I always found that, and maybe if you agree with it or disagree, like when you actually put incense together with all the natural herbs or essential oils, why you feel like it's so much better than, say, because you're going to have to pay
Right.
more.
Yeah, well,
we were talking
okay,
before the
if you
show, like,
actually-
what was it?
like if you actually just go out in nature and pick some plants, you actually pay less. Like, right? Like, wild
That's true.
crafting is free. So, like, high quality plants are like, they grow on plants all by themselves. They're free. Here's what I will say. Incense does a lot of different functions, right? And its first function is just to smell nice, right? And so, like, the synthetic ones, many of them do smell nice, right? So, like, fine. Like, if what you're doing, like, if what you want is to just make a space not smell bad, like, fine, synthetic incense. Personally, I'm like a hippie. I maybe don't think it, I don't really believe it can be good for you to be huffing all those chemicals on fire. Like, it just doesn't seem like a thing that you should be putting in your body. You know what I mean? Like, those synthetic incenses, especially now, I'm kind of a snob. Like, when I smell them, I'm like, oh, this smells like cancer. I'm not going to breathe that. Right?
Whoa!
Like, I mean, I guess what I'm saying is I don't really trust. I mean, I don't really trust corporations to not poison people. That's what it is. Like, so cheap incense, like, who knows what's in it? It's probably full of lead. Like, I don't know. But if you're only burning it, like, occasionally, like, whatever. It smells nice. If that's the function, fine. But incense serves a lot of other functions, right? One thing that I really like to do is I really like it as a, like, visual medium to scry in, right? And so, synthetic incense kind of works for that. I will say personally, for that, I really want loose incense because I really want the ability to have, like, a big cloud of smoke for a little while and then for it to burn. Like, I want the ability to very carefully control how much smoke there is. And, like, I actually even all natural, like, well-crafted incense sticks, I just hate them. I think they're messy. I don't know how other people, like, I just end up with that ash everywhere. I just don't like sticks. Like, I prefer loose, whole ingredients. That's just like a snobby aesthetic preference that I like to have. But there's also like an offertory. Okay.
I was going to say, yeah, no, I totally, if I have time,
sticks.
That's me. I'll build my own instance. I'll spend hours
Yeah,
building my
same.
own instance.
Absolutely.
But I also
But
sometimes
if I'm in a
build
pinch,
it. Yeah, right. In a pinch. Here's the thing. Sometimes when I'm traveling, chai tea bags on charcoal work great. I've burned chai tea bags as incense before. Menthol cigarettes are an excellent incense for necromancy. Like, I too will do things in a pinch. But I will also say, like, another thing I like to do with loose incense in ritual is instead of pre-mixing it, I just put the individual ingredients and then, like, during the ritual, like, pinch of this and pinch of that. Because I know why I picked each of those ingredients. And so it lets me, like, sort of fine tune exactly what's going in as the magic itself is evolving.
That's probably more common what Zach has seen us do when we're making incense. Like,
yeah, that's what I normally
putting
do
it-
when I'm doing it for myself. Like the only reason I pre-mix them is because people give me money to do that. But like if when I'm doing it at home, I don't normally mix them in advance.
although I'm not such an opponent of stick incense.
I just don't like. I'm just a klutz. So I like bump them, and then that ash gets everywhere. I just don't like them. I just think they're messy. I don't know. I don't like them. But it's not like I'm not saying they're bad for magic. I'm saying me personally, I am too stupid to use an incense stick without burning my house down.
Well,
There
it's
you go.
like, when you got the charcoal, the friggin', like, it's on the burner, so if you bump it, you're going to burn yourself and you know it, so you stay away. So,
Oh, well, I mean, I have like a big ceramic burner full of sand, so like it's not hot when
Yeah.
like I use
I
basically
have-
legit like a cereal bowl full of sand. I'm not
I've-
fancy.
Totally legitimately burned myself on charcoal, on candles, on stick
I have
incense. So I'm pretty much
scars.
like,
I
like,
have
okay.
scars from knocking black candles over because the black wax burns like really hot because of all
Yep.
the color. I have a scar on my thigh from black candle wax that I knocked over.
I-
Not like fun
I've
candle
even-
wax scar. Like I am just an idiot who dropped a candle on myself because I'm
I think
too trancy to dance with a candle. I learned.
I think every Fet Gay Day that we do ceremony, like they find it funny to have me accidentally wipe my eyes with the hot peppers the spirits do.
Yep, I've done that
Right?
as well.
It's hilarious. Where I'm like, oh, and you could hear laughter in the room. Like,
Right?
yeah,
I'm
okay, that's
figuring out
funny,
this
Dad.
thinking
That's
about
really
it. I have
funny.
a
Okay, I'm
feeling.
alive. Great.
One of the other things I like about natural incense instead of synthetic incense is like, one of the other things that incense does, like any kind of magic with materia, is that like, that look, everything on Earth, including those synthetics, like it came from the Earth. Like synthetics didn't come from nowhere. Like they also were ultimately like born out of the Earth. But there's such like a long, complex process that it's much harder to like when I burn rose petals from the rose that I planted, that I like grafted from the roses in my mother's garden, or like, cut, like I grew from a cutting from my mother's rose. Like there's this complex, like Venus-y relationship that I have with that plant. Like that plant is a living ally with whom I am in communion, who is like helping me work magic. And I'm not saying you can't get that from like synthetic rose oil, but it's definitely much harder. So, like, in my opinion, it's hard.
I don't know.
Really?
I might agree with your intuition there that you can't get the same thing. You can get a state change, but
Right.
are you connecting to? You are not doing spirit work to connect to the rose plant anymore. You're getting a state change that you associate with rose. There is a difference
I agree.
in the two things.
I agree, but
like-
I guess what I'm saying is if you already have a relationship with rose, like you can connect to rose without having the actual rose material. And will the synthetic?
Sure.
I mean, the synthetic rose won't even help, but you could do it, I guess. But even
But no one who
roses
had-
are so easy. Like everybody, I think basically everybody goes past a rose plant at some point. Like I see, you know what I mean? They're everywhere. Like even if
Yeah.
they're not your own roses, you're just like somewhere that has roses, just like take some.
Personally, it is, and everyone here can argue with me, but I would say anyone who has a relationship with any plant spirit or any, maybe let's not go the spirit route yet, but anyone who has a relationship with the plant, they're not going to use the synthetic for that plant. It's not going to happen.
So.
They would never accept it.
No, I would tend to. I mean, I don't know. Like, if you're in a pinch, like you do you. I'm not in the business of like being the witch police telling people what to do, but I don't.
No.
It's not a good idea.
You could be the witch police.
I mean,
you know.
well, I extremely don't want to be. Like, I know that I can
I
be.
know.
I'm
But I'm
trying
saying
hard.
if you actually, I'm not saying people who are like, I'm saying if you have a real relationship, you have
Yeah.
like a relationship based out of mutual respect and connection.
Yeah.
Even like respect. Maybe you don't even like the plant. Like rue. I respect rue. I think it's an angry ass-beating plant that will do exactly what you ask it to do. It's a total great wealth plant when you need an ass whooping. That's just my relationship with it.
Right.
I don't always want an ass whooping. I don't always need my ass whooped, so I don't always work with rue
Right.
particularly. But I still respect it. So even then, I have
Yeah.
a pretty good. I have a
agree.
relationship like with it. Like so, if I was going to use Rue for a purpose for me to whoop my ass because I was being stupid with financial matters, I definitely wouldn't get a synthetic.
No,
Right,
I agree.
because I have a
think
relationship.
natural is always better, and to go even further, like like natural. By natural, I really mean like this is going to sound unobtainable, but it's just not. Like our culture just wants people to think it is. I legitimately mean you know the plant it came from, not the species, the specific plant. Like not just you have a relationship with like big R rose, the like species totem. Maybe I know totem's maybe a word. I don't know what we're supposed to call that, but like the spirit of that species. Like I mean that, but I also mean like that particular rose tree. Like I want you to talk to it every day when you take care of it. Like that's really what I mean. Like that's best.
That said, if you're lazier, we have lots of herbs here in Queen City.
Yeah. I mean, buy herbs. Like buy herbs. I guess what I'm saying is though, I know I'm like sounding preachy, but like I cannot stress enough, like one, how easy it is to put a plant in dirt and help it grow. Like they actually grow by themselves, plants. You don't really need to do anything to them. They'll grow by themselves. If you pick the right plant and put it in the right place, it grows by itself. But like that relationship with another living being like brings a power to magic that I think it is hard to get elsewhere. So just like a synthetic is vastly inferior, I also think that like a commercially grown plant is inferior to like a plant that lived a rich, full, happy life in nature or like in your garden in communion with you. So I guess what I'm saying is, especially this time of year, I just really encourage people to like go outside and get some dirt under your fingernails and like meet some plant people. Plants who are people and also human people who are into plants. Both of those things.
I just got some plants from my office.
That you did. They were awesome.
Well, I've had a little bit of leg issues. Otherwise, we would have a garden right now. But
I was laid up like all summer last summer, and nothing happened in my garden. And so this summer, I've just been like reclaiming it from the urban blight.
Now that said, I need to have a separate garden for certain plants that aren't really edible for my own joy, not for my own. I don't have any malfeasant purposes. I just like them.
Oh, same. So, I just put in some henbane and some sacred datura yesterday, actually, which I've never grown before.
Let's talk once you get some seeds.
Yeah. I mean, datura isn't like won't overwinter here, but henbane, I believe, I can just grow. Like it seems like I think it will just be quite happy to live here. But the kind of datura, like I actually wanted Jimson weed, which is my local like native datura. But that's not actually what I got, it turns out. So we'll see. But I think I'm not very good at inside plants based on my philosophy that what I'm willing to do with a plant is like put it in the ground and be friends with it. But I am not willing to like provide water and sun. Like nature.
No, honestly, like
I'm not very good at inside plants.
The funny thing is like, I don't know. I totally understand what you're saying. Like I had a willow tree friend that I lost, and it was worse than losing. It was almost as bad as losing a person.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
After the tree got upwinded by like a near tornado gust, I was very sad.
Right, they're people. I mean, they're just slow, quiet people. So it takes a while to get to know them compared to a person. They don't speak human very well. Like you have to learn, humans, something I think about like my spirit practice is that like, I genuinely believe like one of the magical powers of humans is that like compared to almost any other kind of spirit, like humans are really adaptable and like communicative. So I think like it's easier for us to learn to speak oak tree than it is for an oak tree to learn to speak human, is the way I think about it. Like that's a magic power that humans have, is we're like much more adaptable than most things.
Some humans.
I mean, humans in general, but I also like I acknowledge the privilege. Like I'm devil tongued. Like I pick up languages really fast. Like that's also a fact. But I mean, humans in general, like you can learn to speak tree just like you can learn to speak Spanish.
So, if people went through your whole book, what would you hope they take away from it? Like you said, some of it, but like there's also a lot of kind of snippets of ceremonial. It's not really ceremonial. It's Jewish ceremonial magic. There's some components to the spirits. There's some. The first part has some herbs. What do you hope they take away from it if they read cover to cover?
Inspiration. Like that's what I want them to like. What I want them to take away from it is like a book that like they have crossed things out and written notes on, and it's all like stained with like oil and plants, and like it's all dog-eared because they actually like did things. And I would be super happy if nobody ever made any of these recipes exactly as written, but they just like they read something, you're like, oh, that's cool, it makes me think blah blah blah, and then they do their own thing. So what I really want for them to take away is just like inspiration to do new magic. That's my goal.
You want your book to be the potions book in Harry Potter.
Yes. I know I'm supposed
book.
to. I know
Snape's
I
book.
should know what Snape's book is about. I know who Snape
It's all about the
is.
potions, and he wrote
That's
all the
Alan
correct
Rickman,
instructions.
right? I know about Harry Potter. I'm hip to pop culture.
Ugh.
Sorry, I don't know like what's special about that book, but yes, I would like it to be a magic wizard potion book.
Well, okay. To put context,
Sorry.
in the Half-Blood Prince, basically Snape there was all these instructions, and the potions would never work as they were written. And Snape wrote all these instructions everywhere on every page on how to do it correctly, like just little things like crush beans this way, do it this way, do it this way.
Well, yes, but I mean, I do think they work as written also. Like, I think they will work. But it's it's what I thought. I thought a lot about cookbooks when I was writing this book because, like, I struggled to think about how to organize it, and I started to talk to people about like because I'm not a person who reads cookbooks, like not. Right. I talked to people who did, and I talked about like what they liked about them. And I realized that like when I read recipes, I don't actually follow them. You know what I mean? Like if I look up a recipe for like banana bread, I read like 3 or 4 recipes and I'm like, okay, I understand this. And then I kind of make up my own recipe based on whatever's in my kitchen. And that's what I really like. My goal is to really like empower people, like to make people feel like they do know enough about what they're doing to just like make up their own recipes based on what's in their garden and what's in their kitchen and like what the exact need is. Like I personally think you're better off like developing a new recipe for like every individual spell that you do rather than like having a formula, right? Because I don't know. That's just my take on it, I guess. So that's what I want.
Usually for myself, I would totally agree with you, but people want set formulas when you have a store.
Well,
so.
and I did. I
do.
did when I was first starting too. Like, I think that's how you learn that, right? Like the way you learn to improvise. Like, I'm not a musician, but like the way you learn to improvise music is by listening to and playing a lot of music. You know what I mean? So like for beginners, like I think having this big formula, right, like gives them a place to start. But I think if somebody actually went through this book and actually made all the incenses, or even like a quarter of the incenses, like having done that, they'd have enough like knowledge and experience under their belt to start to improvise. But there's nothing wrong. Like I buy pre-made stuff. I buy pre-made oils. I don't like to make oils. They're messy. Like I buy pre-made stuff sometimes. I'm just cheap is really what it is. Right. And also like rabidly anti-capitalist. So I know I'm supposed to be telling people to buy books and buy incense, but I'd rather you plant a garden and get a library card. I mean, but you too. I mean, you have a library, but I mean, you have a library in the store too, right? Like, I know that we're on the same page.
We decided not to sell books.
Oh, that's interesting.
We'll order for a lot of reasons. We'll order them for people if obviously if you check out a book for like 2 months, we're gonna email you and be like, Joe, you had this book for 2 months. Maybe we should buy you a copy, Joe.
Right.
Joe,
yeah, we'll talk to the author about that. We'll get you that copy signed for a book.
Yeah, we'll get you a copy. This is clearly not a book you are just going to skim and then kind of put back on the shelf.
Right.
this is clearly a book you are really working through, and you ask us questions about this book. So
Right.
So
Joe,
we want to support you.
Joe is
so let's get that book.
theoretical person. Like Joe,
Right.
let's just get the book for you. But on the surface, like I realized, like probably people aren't going to resonate with every book.
Yeah, exactly.
And nowadays, like it's such that, you know, even having a library is sort of at the level of reading going on, rebellious, right?
Yeah.
It's sort of counterculture to say,
Is that true?
why don't
I'm
you
so
just
out of touch. Like, I don't know what Harry Potter is. I like thought people had books. I live in like a weird fantasy world where I have no idea what's going on in the real world. Apparently,
no reading is down across everything. So,
Yeah.
like ultimately,
I'm sure
our
that's
goal.
true. Yeah.
Ultimately, we're not there yet with the center. Ultimately, our goal is, if we stay, we're on the 4th floor, so we're not even on the street, which is good and bad. But eventually, we'd just like to have the library and then serve cappuccino.
Oh yeah, that would be
And-
awesome.
Yeah, it'd be like a cafe.
Like I want to
Right.
move. Like if that happens, I want to live
Oh,
next door to that.
it'll happen.
It's
Yeah.
It's just a matter
It's
of
just time.
It just takes time. No, I get it.
when. Right. Part of that too is that the idea is that, you know, our primary business model is honestly education and
Right.
experience.
Same. Yeah.
Not necessarily just the books.
Mhm.
But that said, you know, our goal is not the far-fetched goal. Once we get past COVID, if COVID never happened, we'd already have achieved that. But
Right.
it would
Yeah.
be to sell Korean street toast and sell
I
Korean
gotta
street
move to
toast.
Toronto. I don't really know
And
what Korean
basically-
street
Come on up
toast
here when
is,
you can.
but it
Have-
sounds amazing. Like
and
I
have
don't know what that is. But
have cappuccino, and then have people come and read books, not necessarily just occult books,
right.
Yeah.
and kind of do spiritual art while they're here.
Right.
We were having concerts.
We were
in our-
having that.
Mhm.
in our Saturn. We had DJs and small concerts because it's not a huge space.
Right.
And then we had to switch our business model.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
so
Same.
beforehand,
Like
we
I
had-
was doing all kinds of in-person like classes and rituals and events, and I also had to like rapidly
switch everything. But we were having
Mhm.
we would have Reiki parties. We had DJs and one
classes. Yeah.
like live meditation classes, like
Mhm.
something that
Yeah.
I'd like to do more of, which is I call it what was it? What was the name of that when we do the artwork, the hypnosis
Oh.
artwork,
The hypno art.
hypno art, yeah, where we take me and our artists collaborate, and I do performance art hypnosis with the art piece that they did after studying their notes and creation notes.
Mhm.
All kinds of stuff that we were sort of going the route of, yes, we have this library. This is sort of a performance center. We do acupuncture and wellness, but we considered the art pieces as part of the wellness and healing
Yeah, absolutely.
nature
Yeah.
of people. Like,
Yeah.
so it wasn't like, so yeah, there's going to be a time at which we have an espresso machine and we're making Korean toast just because that's all I'm going to make. That's all we're going to sell is different types of Korean toast.
I don't know
That's
what
our
Korean
business
toast
plan.
is. What's Korean toast?
It's this toast. It's toast.
I like
it's
toast.
Korean
Okay,
street
that
toast.
sounds great.
So,
You say that like I don't even know what
It's
Harry
Korean
Potter
street
is, so like I definitely don't know.
Well,
what
let me
Korean
just say, like, how would you describe it, Zach? Like,
I would describe
it's
it
like-
as toast with different items that could be food but could be savory and sweet depending how you make it.
it's like French.
So,
it's like
it's like
French
French, yeah.
toast.
Oh,
French
okay.
toast, except it's got slightly different flavors.
Okay, but
Or
not like
somewhere it's a middle between French toast and crepes.
Right.
well, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
I'm gonna definitely look. I'm gonna have that for dinner. That sounds
Except it's
great.
Korean,
I'm gonna
so it's
ask
kind of
YouTube
like-
how to make that. That sounds fabulous.
So it's Korean, so they tend to use a lot of ketchup or kimchi, and so it's got sort of a
Seafood.
seafood, right?
I mean, in my imagination, I'm basically imagining like a savory French toast with kimchi on it, and that sounds amazing.
That would be
That's
close.
That's
to,
kind of it. Yeah.
All right. Well,
I mean, the last time I got Korean toast, let's see, last time it was pretty good.
Had that like
it had ketchup. It had ketchup, which you wouldn't think in French toast, but it was really good. And that was, it had ketchup and then some extra vinegar and some hot sauce. It was really good, and it's easy to make. You kind of make a whole bunch of different things. It's just kind of that was.
You guys should just make
stick.
a YouTube video of like teaching me how to make Korean toast.
We should do that.
I would watch
should.
that.
I mean,
It would be like,
the thing is, like right now, we're trying to finish our wish shrine because that's what we're talking about. Like we were much more intended to be performancing. We actually have a wish shrine that's not finished. That's a public wish shrine that when the building's open, you could just come and do like a Japanese tie. You could just take your ribbon and tie it to the wish shrine, and then we'll use some Shinto rituals where we kind of gather them up and then go to the forest and burn them all, releasing the wishes to spirits. That is consecrated already to the sun goddess.
We have like a vaguely similar thing here where we have a herm, like a rock cairn for Hermes, and you like roll up little wishes and tuck them in, and then periodically we like release them all in a ritual. I mean, it's not exactly the same.
So it's got to be. We're in East Chinatown, so it's got to be like Big Trouble in Little China, right? Yeah.
Well, yeah.
So
I mean,
so
even
we have
the
a Japanese Korean toast, and
Japanese Korean toast. I mean, hell, the Tanuki Array got a calling card from somebody.
That's right. We have some actual Tanuki spirits here.
Awesome.
That we got, and people have left things for the Tanuki already. More than
we
have.
That's cool.
That is pretty funny because they're little trickster bastards. So I'm surprised they could convince people. I don't know what they told them, but they obviously.
I don't know what they told them either. Because like I literally was walking to the field like, what's this? And there's like a business card there. I'm like, really, guys? Really?
Yeah. So like I know, and that's not the first time. So I'm sure they're convincing people to do stuff.
Sure.
And they like think it's funny because what is a Tanuki going to get you?
Korean toast. That's
maybe.
What we'll get you.
Sounds promising to me.
So you got another book coming.
Yeah, so the second edition of Orphic. So this is what the first edition looks like. A new expanded edition with like some additional spells and commentary and a ton of new illustrations. So in the second edition, every hymn has its own icon. It's coming out from Hadean in September. And then I'm currently writing a book on the Planetary Pentacles of Solomon Magician King, which... Well, the manuscript is due in November, so I'm going to imagine it'll be out probably next spring or summer. I will say one thing I learned, it's astonishing to me how long, like, until I started doing it, I really had no understanding of how, like, it takes a really long time from when I finish writing a book to put that book on shelf.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
That is as long as it took to write it. For reasons that truthfully are still not clear to me, why it takes so long.
I don't know. When I wrote my first book, it took about a year because I had to basically go back and forth with the editors.
I will say thus far, I have not been asked to make substantial changes in editing.
No substantial changes.
Just like a lot of like, I just get like typos and like this sentence could be clearer. But I mean, I know some people get back manuscripts that are just like covered in red ink. We'll see. The Solomon one might come back that way. Yeah, same.
See. Yeah. We'll see. Well, do you have any classes upcoming or?
Well, let's see. I am currently running an Introduction to Witchcraft class. We're on lesson 5 of 13, but it's really, like, it does have live Zooms, but truthfully, most people watch the videos on their own time, not necessarily at the speed of the course anyway. And then I'm teaching a course on the Solomonic Pentacles, but the truth is we're about to start lesson 11 of 13. So if somebody was going to take that one, I might tell them just wait a couple months until it restarts. In 2 weeks, for anybody in central Pennsylvania, I'm going to be teaching and running ritual at the Hills and Rivers gosh, I should have looked this up. Hills and Rivers, I think it's called like Summerfest. It's the Summer Solstice Festival. That's June 12th. It's Sunday. Whichever one of 11 or 12th is Sunday, it's then in central Pennsylvania. So if anybody like is in that area and wants to know about it, I'll give you a link to put up. But they could just Google like Pennsylvania Hills and Rivers Summer Festival, and I'm sure it would come up. That's about what I have going on right now. I think pretty soon I'm going to have some more of those like one-off classes. So if people have things, once the Solomon class finishes, I'll have like room for another one. So if there are things people want to see me teach about, they're around. I think I'm going to have one on like making and consecrating and using magic rattles, like rattle as a magical tool. And then I think I'm going to do so I already have a like standalone course on curse breaking, but a lot of people have been asking for like more advanced. So there might be like curse breaking, like advanced curse breaking, I guess is what it would be called, something like that. Sorry if you guys can hear that noise. It's the train. I live near the train.
It's all good. We could not hear it right now.
Oh, well, good then.
It's pretty clear, yeah. No, I can hear it, but it's okay.
There's a train in my backyard.
So, it's been an hour already.
It has.
For sponsors for the show, like I said, our chakra workshops continue. Willpower Chakra, Sunday. Like I said, we're going to be opening the store up on Sundays that you can just come if you're a sponsor. Literally, we're going to just be working, like making stuff. But you can see us, believe it or not, you'll learn more by watching us work than you think you will if you're a sponsor.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's the best way to learn. Like that's for anything. Like as a teacher, you and I both know like that is in fact the best way to learn things.
And you know what the rule is, as long as the coffee keeps running, we keep talking. That's how the workshop, that's how it's going to work while we're doing. Like, so if there's still iced coffee, you ask us questions and we're not thirsty, you will get some answers.
It'll keep happening.
Right, things will keep happening. You never know. Me and Zach are kind of crazy. All of a sudden, we might just be like, hey, Zach, let's do a Massive Chaos Baphomet. Right here, right now.
It will roll down that way. It will be like...
Sometimes it does. Be like...
I love that Massive Chaos Baphomet, by the way. Every time I've done it with you, it is like genuinely like made big changes in my life. Sometimes good, occasionally difficult. But
yeah.
That's
not the only thing. Like,
Yeah, no, I know.
Sometimes we'll be working on candles and we'll break 3 red candles where we're like trying to dress it, and we'll be like, oh man, we need to do an uncrossing because this person's vibe is so bad. And do a full planetary uncrossing right then. So if you're there, you'll just see us bust out with we'll be like, hey, do you want to participate in a full uncrossing? Because we're doing it right now. Because that's just the way we roll. So you never know what's going to happen.
You really don't. Because it'll be like,
so
we'll be doing stuff, we'll be making stuff, and then you'll be like, yo, I heard about the spirit. Be like, you mean the one right there, right? Yeah, it's been here the whole time. Would you like a conversation?
Yeah, you never know. We're kind of actual magicians first and then store owners second. So it sort of happens that way. After we cover the chakras, obviously, we are going to move into the Western elements. Those are going to be the next for the sponsor shows every 2 weeks. And as Zach has requested, then we're going to run practical tarot classes. But I haven't worked out how that would do. But not just divinations. They will also be tarot enchantments. That's as per Zach's request and several of Zach's students. So the sponsors, if you're a sponsor, you can hear that good stuff is coming your way. That you could thank Zach. He asked for that specifically, and you asked for that. Many of you asked him that. So I'll do it.
Yeah. So for a sponsorship, $40 a month, you get access to our physical library. You get access to 2 years plus worth of workshop and content, and you get all the upcoming workshops as long as you're a member.
Right.
There
you go.
That sounds super cool. I wish I lived near you.
See, there you go.
Well, it's online too.
If you do visit, we'd love to have you come to the store. We'll have
we absolutely
would. Workshops.
Oh, that would be fun. All right, maybe I'll try and make that happen. Although, truthfully, I'm a hobbit and I never want to leave my house.
the border's open now. So when you decide to leave the house, like, you know how it is. It was great having you. When you get your next book
was
done,
lovely to
we'll have
talk
you
to
come
you.
back.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love to talk about the Pentacles of Solomon, something
Sure.
that I have some interest in myself.
Yeah.
And have you come back when you finish that in November.
In November. Hopefully it's going to be finished before that. Like I'm like a psycho
We'll
about.
believe we'll be
I'm a
finished in
psycho
November.
about deadlines, actually. So it'll definitely be like I know, according to my publisher, I'm maybe like the only person who turns in manuscripts on time. But I would, if I have a manuscript due November 1st, if it's November 2nd, I would be like, so. I just get super anxious about that. It's like I hate being.
I
turn things
totally used to be that way. And then I went to get my master's degree, and I had deadlines for a book, and it passed. And decided I'm not going to be that way anymore, and I'm going to not be bound by the demon of consistency.
It's
on
true.
that.
I say this
Think
on
of
camera, but just this afternoon, somebody emailed me and was like, just so you know, did you forget about me? Because you were supposed to. Blah, blah, blah. Oops, I did. Yes, I'll do that tomorrow. So
On the way out.
I try really hard to be on time for things.
Get it? The book on the screen. Big Book of Magical Incense.
Very good.
Awesome.
So, very good.
Thanks.
Thanks again. Now,
Thank you for
everyone,
having me.
stay well, stay safe,
You too.
and stay healthy, everyone.